You're listening to
They're gonna call it a hard foul. They're gonna call it a hard foul.
offering in-depth analysis on all things Boston Celtics with your hosts, Jim and Mike Quigley.
All right, we're back with another episode of Hard Foul. Tonight, the Celtics got the Timberwolves coming off a split of the Pacers. Mike, we're just going to start with you because I know you have some things you want to get off your chest in terms of the end of that Pacers game with officiating and league reviews and things of that nature. So take it away.
Yeah, it was awful. I don't think the Celtics deserve to win that game or be in that game because of their effort in the third quarter, but they were in the game. And quite frankly, they should have won the game. That wasn't a good challenge, in my opinion, because it was clearly called a foul on the floor. It's always called a foul that way. Those calls never get overturned. The Celtics should have been at the line with 3 seconds left, and Indiana had no timeouts. Kristaps Porzingis isn't going for the rebound in that situation because the whistle's blown, and that's how Indiana ends up with the ball. It was just a complete fuck-up. It was a clown show. And it's crazy to me that it goes to Secaucus, and they're making that decision. Like, what were they thinking? I don't understand. The whole thing, and it was a great game, too, for it to end like that in the hands of the referees. Yeah, and there was other things I was frustrated about that have to do with the Celtics, like the end of the game. I thought, I don't like the way they handled the last 36 seconds of that game, especially that last possession. But we can get into that. But
yeah,
the referees, all like every single time there is a replay, and it's right in front of our face how obvious the call is. As viewers, we still don't know what's going to happen because it's so friggin' inconsistent across the league. It's the officiating in the NBA is so bad. Every year, we don't know how they're going to call games. Every game, we don't know they're going to call games. When we have a playoff game, depending on who the refs are, we know who's going to win some of these games. It's just so bad. And I don't understand why the commissioner can't fix it.
Well, it's interesting because you talked about like how Secaucus actually is the one that did the video review and makes the call. So I actually think the officials got it right on the floor. And you know, as someone that used to referee, and you know, you're trained to, you know, if there is incidental contact, you don't blow the whistle. But I don't know how you look at that as incidental contact when someone goes through someone's head to get to the ball.
Yeah,
like I know he drove the contact with the ball was clean, but he hit him in the head first, and I just, to me, it's like that's in every level of basketball, that's called a foul. And there's no replay to review it. You know, that's just a foul. And that's why I think all the players, and you saw LeBron's reaction on Twitter, is because they've been playing this game for over 20 years, and everywhere they've gone, that's a foul. Now with, you know, we're going to slow it down, you know, to super slow speed, and we're going to go into the depths of the rule book, and we're going to really get technical here. I think that's absurd, you know, and especially when it's supposed to be clear and obvious for a change. That wasn't clear and obvious, I think, by any definition of the rule. You know, and maybe someone on Rick Carlisle's staff like thought that this could happen, and that's why they challenged it. I don't know. And then when you go down the other end of the floor, and you know, the League 2-minute report said there was an illegal screen on Turner. Well, that's one of the things that my biggest frustration is. I don't know what an illegal screen is. That call is so inconsistent across the league. So inconsistent. If guards push off on a screen, they don't get called. A big guy does a minuscule thing wrong, they get called. If it's down the end of the game, they don't call.
Unless their name's Bam Adebayo.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. I really don't know what they're looking for with an illegal screen anymore. Like, I don't know that call. But I thought the Porzingis one was a foul. In the League 2-minute report, I think to cover their ass on the Jaylen Brown thing, said that wasn't a foul, that was also incidental contact.
Doesn't make sense.
No, and to me, Porzingis kind of jumped into him, and there was contact. I don't really see that as incidental. But I feel like they were covering their ass because Porzingis got some of the arm and a clean ball. I just that to me, none of that makes any sense. That doesn't make the game better. It hurts the product. To me, that should have been a quick review, a call back to the official that it was declined. Now, what's interesting is, Mike, and, let's talk about the last 36 seconds, but part of that last 36 seconds is Joe Mazzulla didn't have a review because he took a bad review, which is something the Celtics really have not done all season, earlier in the game on the Brown offensive charge. And if he
I don't want to blame that on Mazzulla, though. That comes from his bench.
Well, Mazzulla, his bench, whomever. But they lost their review on like Carlisle, where, maybe that game goes into overtime, the Celtics still have it. Clearly it would have, if that's what the league is saying, so, those are the breaks sometimes. And, but you want to talk about the last 36 seconds, we should definitely talk about the trend in Celtics losses that we're seeing with the third quarters, but, go ahead with those last 36 seconds.
Yeah, the last 2 minutes and 36 seconds. The last 2 minutes. So
okay.
There was 2 minutes and 36 seconds in the game when the Celtics came out of a timeout. Me and you were both texting back and forth. I think they were down 6, and we were like, they don't deserve this. They're not playing hard. Blah, 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 whatever.
Allen kind of took over. Yeah.
And then they went into He-Man mode and got themselves back in the game. But that last 36 seconds, I'm not going to argue against NBA philosophy. That first possession, I guess the data says, the analytics says you want to get a shot off quick. So that's what they did. Brown didn't make the shot, whatever.
Hey, but Minnesota
then you make the stop.
Yeah. You
make the stop. Why don't we ever call a timeout? Especially when Jaylen Brown is not on the floor.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing, man?
And especially how
Brown got bailed out because he got fouled, but that was not a good look. If he didn't get fouled, that wasn't going in. Like, I just don't understand. Like, this is a trend with Mazzulla going back to last year. Why don't we ever set something up in those situations like every other NBA franchise?
And I get it. Like, I think there's a point where you can see what's happening when the ball gets over half court, whether you're going to have numbers or not in an opportunity to score, right? Sometimes it is better not to go with a timeout because of defense in scramble mode. I think as soon as Jaylen Brown started dribbling that ball towards the corner, they should have used it and something together. And especially, I thought Mazzulla out of timeouts was amazing, and out of bounds plays were just amazing against, especially.
I mean, that Cornette one almost went in.
Ago. Yeah, and they did it all game. They were getting good looks all game, and that the one at the end of the game, great point with Cornette. It almost worked.
Yep.
So I like I think he's really good out of that. Like, that's one area he's improved drastically since last year is, sidelines out of bounds and under the hoop. Like, he's been really, really good at putting the Celtics in position to score. But I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you.
That's my rant about the end of the game. And the reason that I think we both agree, and I'm sure you'll get into more specific details like you usually do to help this pod about the play of the third quarter.
I don't know.
Celtics third quarter. Well, I mean, like you're better off like, oh well, I remember the plays and like exactly what happened tonight. But anyways, their effort was just not there. Their effort was just not there, and I thought the coaching effort wasn't there either because they stayed in a defense that clearly wasn't working. And you saw it early on in the third quarter when Aaron Nesmith was just being left open for three. A guy who's shooting 45% from three, the Celtics weren't even getting out on. And then once again, you saw a 40-point quarter. So 2 out of the last 3 games in the third quarter on the road, they've given up 40 points. They gave up 45 to the Thunder, and they gave up it was either 43 or 44 to Indiana. And at one point in that third quarter, Jim, Indiana was 12 of 13 from the floor.
Yeah, they started off in the first 7-8 possessions. It was ridiculous. And some of it was in man, some of it was in zone. I agree. They were stuck in zone in the fourth quarter for way too long in particular. And I'm glad they're doing some 2-on-2 and they're doing some different stuff just to get it on tape and give teams something to think about. They've been too predictable. over the last 2 seasons defensively, know exactly what they're going to do. I think wrinkles are important, and I'd like to see another one. I just think having them, and hopefully you get better, and against different teams it works. But clearly it was not working this night. Indiana struggled against it on Sunday night or Saturday night, whenever they played, because of the first time seeing it, and clearly they had it figured out. The bigger issue to me was just, against the Thunder, I thought the Thunder just played out of their minds. And maybe the Celtics could have played harder in that third quarter. It was really tough to tell because of how well the Thunder were playing. In this one, I thought a lot of it was effort. I thought they were losing any loose ball. The few times Indiana did miss shots, they were able to recover the offensive rebound and then score. There was a lack of attention to detail outside of their offensive possessions. The crazy thing is they went in with a 9-point lead, and they shot something like 6 of 9 or 6 for 10 to start the third quarter, right? That's really right. Good. And their lead was down to 3. And to me, it's inexcusable. It really is inexcusable for that to happen. And it wasn't like Missoula didn't call a timeout during that stretch. He did. And the team didn't respond. And you've seen 7 out of the 8 losses that the Celtics have had. You've seen third quarters like this. So, and at times the third quarters have been great, but they've all been in wins. And look, it's tough to nitpick a team that's winning at an 800 level, right? They're winning almost 80% of their games, a little bit less than that now, but they've been really, really good. But there is a trend here. So I think it's something we really need to keep an eye on. Is this a team that every 8 or 9 games gets into a slump like this and goes through 2 or 3 just because they take their foot off the gas a little bit, or they think because they played so well in the first half the game's over and human bad habits kind of kick in? Or is this a trend that's something that's worse than that and we have to be concerned about in the playoffs? Hopefully it's the former, not the latter. Hopefully it's just a thing that happens in the regular season and the focus kind of wanes because they've been playing so well and the foot kind of goes off the gas and isn't something that leaks into the playoff where every possession matters. So, but it's happened enough now. 7 out of 8 losses.
Yeah, and credit to the Pacers for how hard they were playing, especially TJ McConnell. Yeah. I think that when Halliburton went down, they certainly could have folded it in and thought about the next night, but McConnell's effort just wouldn't allow that to happen. The Celtics weren't matching his effort. They weren't getting to the same loose balls that he was. They
weren't cutting off his drives. They were letting McConnell get to the hoop. The ball resistance was so poor. It's not always getting loose balls. The ball resistance was so poor that anyone on the Pacers could get to the basket and then find a man for an open 3. And the Celtics were lazily helping. Why are you helping on a McConnell drive? And why shooter? That's a lack of focus, lack of effort, even though it doesn't maybe show up on the screen.
And I also thought a lack of adjustments too, because you had Porzingis covering McConnell for way too long.
Yeah.
And it clearly wasn't working going back to the first half. So I don't know. I get why they were trying to do it, but it wasn't working. And they just were banging their head against the wall that entire game. And I also thought offensively, they weren't going to Porzingis and Brown enough. They kind of got away from it when those two and Holiday were probably your best offensive players the other night. And they went through a stretch where Brown was stuck at 32 points. Just didn't make sense to me. He wasn't stuck there because he was missing shots. He was stuck there because they stopped running action for him to just drive to the basket. I think sometimes Missoula's going to step back in and just get back to what's working. And, just not a great game. This is going to happen. I think I also agree to take a look at that trend. The third quarters every, 5 or 6 games or what have you moving forward. Big game tonight, Jim. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to say about it. I saw in the injury report, we got 3 guys who may be out.
Yeah.
Porzingis, Al, and I forget who the other person is. So you figure some guys are sitting tonight and tomorrow. So big 2 games. Minnesota's coming in on a back-to-back. They played in Orlando last night. I don't know if it ended up being a blowout, but they were up by like 20 in the first quarter. So did they rest their guys?
No, not really. Outside of Anthony Edwards, everyone else was plus 30 minutes. Edwards was like 26, 27 minutes, but everyone else was plus 30.
So maybe they won't have legs. That could help.
And they didn't get in until today. They're not getting in until early this afternoon. They're not even here yet.
Okay.
Because of the weather. So, the Celtics, look, it's a revenge game. They've been really good in revenge games. I think it's something that, they're using to motivate themselves. Being at home really means something to them. Minnesota's coming off a loss. This should be a game that the Celtics handle their business. All the indicators are pointing in that direction. This should be a one that they handle their business, even if they have a guy or 2 out. I just going back to the Indiana. One last thing I want to say, Mike, is we got to give Jaylen Brown his kudos. You brought him up having 32 points. Last couple minutes of the game, the reason they got back into it was because of his offensive efforts, whether him kind of starting the offense and then finding the open man, or he made a couple big shots down the end of the game, to put him in the spot to have a chance to win. So he was great coming off, one of his worst efforts of the season against shooting efforts against Indiana the 2 nights before. But tonight they should, it should be all right. And you also brought up how they're going to handle these back-to-backs. I think there'll be some guys sitting tonight based on the injury report. I wonder if they have some guys sitting in Minnesota, against Milwaukee as well. They managed Jason Tatum in that Indiana game where he got a night off. I wonder if maybe we see Jaylen Brown get a night off as well soon. Because clearly I think that's important to them is managing these guys as much as getting wins. So they're all kind of going in, full blow at the end of the season and into the playoffs.
Yeah, something I'm really looking forward to tonight is how does Brown and Tatum handle the ball pressure that they're going to get from McDaniels and Edwards?
Mm-hmm.
That was something we struggled with down in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So Minnesota gets up in you. We'll see on the second night of a back-to-back how much they get up in you. But and then also how we defend Anthony Edwards, because the last 2 or 3 times we played Minnesota, Edwards has gone off. So whether you're going to put Brown on him or try Tatum or try Holiday, trying to figure out that matchup. And that's always interesting to see because the Celtics have so many different guys they can throw at him. I know, for example, the Orlando game against Pablo, when he had 30 in the first half, they went through like 3 guys before they finally figured out it was Holiday that was going to stop him. And I hope they're creative like that tonight, because it may be a team effort to figure out how to slow this guy down tonight.
Oh, for sure. And then the thing I'm most curious about tonight's game is Tatum's been just on another level the last 3 games he's played. OKC, Utah, and then Indiana was probably, the cherry on top. And the one part of his game you could really criticize this season is, his 3-point shooting percentage and his jump shots. It's been a bit of a struggle. He's been finishing at the rim real well. He's been getting to the free throw line at a high rate. He's been moving the ball. He's been rebounding, defending. So all those other parts of the game have been great, but his shooting has struggled. But not over the last 3 games, certainly not against Indiana, where he made 5 or 6 threes. So good defensive team, a night off. A night off for him's got to feel like a vacation. So he's going to have fresh legs ready to go. And I'm just eager to see what he looks like, against this tough defense and well-rested. And I expect him to play really, really well again tonight. And then, Mike, he's setting up for a big one against Milwaukee, right?
Yeah. So big Eastern Conference game tomorrow night. Another preview of most likely the Eastern Conference Final, unless things go bananas like last year. We'll see. We'll see what that game's like. Milwaukee cannot defend our wings, so I expect the Celtics, even with tired legs, to get their points. But
other guards,
another small guard that I don't think the Celtics can defend tomorrow night is probably going to go off. So I expect 2 very close games these next 2 nights. It should be good, entertaining basketball. I think we all want the Celtics to go 2-2, 2-0. That's tough. So I would be happy with 1-1 in this stretch, but I also wouldn't be surprised if the Celtics blow doors and win both of them.
Well, the 5th game in 7 nights will be tomorrow night, and that's almost historically have been like a death sentence in the NBA, regardless of the team or the situation. Is 5 games in 7 nights is usually just not good. So it'll be interesting to really see how the Celtics handle tonight, what they're going to lace up, who they're going to lace up, and then what they're able to do tomorrow. I expect the Celtics bench to be a little bit more expanded than we're typically used to seeing. I don't think they're going to go to a short bench here. And I don't know if the game, here's my prediction for tomorrow night against Milwaukee. I don't know if tomorrow night is going to be indicative of what a Milwaukee Celtics matchup would typically look like.
No, it won't be. No way, because either Holiday, Porzingis, or Al, one of those guys or two of them are not going to be playing.
Yeah. I think so too. And I wouldn't even be surprised if Jaylen Brown gets a night off tomorrow night. That would not shock me. I doubt it, but it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good point, because if they're trying to sit Jaylen Brown, I guarantee you he does not want to sit against the Rockets.
No, probably
I guarantee none of those guys want to sit the eBay game.
No, I forgot about that game. Interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, I got to cut this pod earlier than usual, so we're not going to get into our 5 questions, but we'll do that the next time.
Right.
Any closing thoughts from you?
No, just 2 great games. We'll check back in probably after these 2 and go Celtics.
Go Celtics. All right. Talk to everyone soon.